I can't be alone in watching this pink tote lid stories trend, in having specific memories or even just like emotions or thoughts or recollections of how I often felt as a kid come up. I also find myself cycling through trying to fall asleep at night or and going, why why am I reacting this way? Because this story and this other story all included things that I never experienced. That is so terrible, and that never happened to me. And I can even imagine other people watching this and thinking, I was never physically harmed. Or people like me who would say, well, I was only ever corporally punished. It wasn't like random pain being inflicted on me, or at least my parents wouldn't have seen it as random. Or maybe the verbal experiences that you had made you feel really bad, but you weren't outright called names. These are just a few examples, but I'm sure there are endless other like trains of thought that might lead you to feel like these people who have these stories are different from me, and so I shouldn't be aligning with them. It's important to know that that is a very normal reaction for people who have very valid childhood trauma. A lot of it is about our attachment to our parents. So children are wired to essentially see our parents with rose-colored glasses and to absorb too much blame or responsibility for ourselves as children, because it would be so incredibly threatening to a child to think that their parent is the problem because they can't do anything about who their parent is. So that leaves the only option that I am the problem. And through that, we can justify almost any amount of toxic treatment. Perhaps most importantly, you probably know here today that if you were to talk about your stories with your parent and share how that has left you wounded even today, they would probably say, that isn't abuse. Because if they treated you that way, then they probably didn't think it was abuse. Or I've seen lots of stories where parents will even just deny that the thing happened. But for those who are willing to say, yeah, I did treat you that way, they'll probably say it was discipline, or that was just parenting, or they were just trying to get you to behave. And even though you're an adult and no longer are dependent on them, most likely at least, then your brain still thinks that you need to be in harmony with the person that raised you. It still recognizes that this is your attachment figure. So even in adulthood, when we start questioning our parents and handing them back responsibility, even if just in our own head, of going, I really didn't deserve that, or I really didn't understand, or I really couldn't have done better, and they punished me for that, or they screamed at me for that, and that was scary. Just recognizing those things feels like a threat to your current harmony with your parents, and your body perceives that as a threat. And that is why it is so easy to find yourself cycling back through doubting your own sense of whether you have trauma. It can be really hard to face that our parents did wrong by us and that they hurt us. And maybe your parents really were doing their absolute best. That doesn't mean it didn't cause harm. And the reason that it's important to go back through this stuff rather than just say, oh, it's in the past and like let it be, is that if you are still holding yourself overly responsible for your childhood experiences, that is having an impact on you. Your emotional well-being, or your sense of self-worth, your defense mechanisms, something about you is almost certainly being the collateral damage that is occurring by you being unwilling to see your parents as responsible for the harm that they caused. Sometimes it can help to see experiences from other people with trauma talking about their experiences. If you find that to be helpful, feel free to follow me. This account is all about sharing my experiences with trying to heal from anxiety, PTSD, CPTSD. I also have ADHD, so I share some about that as well.